I'm going to use my gavel. Going to open the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Stacy, will you read the roll call?
Commissioner Garlock? Here. Commissioner Gilbert?
Present.
Commissioner Hosky? Here. Commissioner Idarola?
Here.
Commissioner Mancini?
Here.
Commissioner Tagliatella?
Here.
Commissioner Perry?
Here.
And Chairman Kelly.
Here.
We have a full house, Chairman.
Thank you. Would you please read the call of the meeting?
Notice of special meeting of West Haven Charter Revision Commission, Thursday, July 16th, 2026. Notice is hereby given that Arthur Kelly, Chairman, has called a special meeting of the West Haven Charter Revision Commission to be held at 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 16th in the City Council Chambers, 3rd floor, 355 Main Street, West Haven, Connecticut. The purpose of this special meeting is as follows. Discussion and action, if necessary, on the City Council's recommendations for revisions to the draft revised charter.
Thank you. And if you could all take a look, if you haven't had a chance to look at the meetings from the last, minutes from the last meeting, please. And I'll entertain a motion when ready.
Motion to approve. Second.
Member Hosky, motion to approve, second by Member Gilbert. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, discussion and action, if necessary, on the City Council's recommendations for revisions to the draft revised charter. Attorney Cassini has handed out the Village Improvement Association language that was hammered out between the attorneys. And we'll take a minute to go over it. I think it was sent out yesterday, so we've had a chance to look at it, hopefully, and see if there's any discussion on it. And I'll ask the attorneys, this has been agreed to by the VIA?
By their counsel.
By their counsel?
I presume that they spoke with at least leadership from the VIA, if not the entire body.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on this, Attorney Mednick or Cassini? Yes.
What's that?
Any comments on this?
Oh, yeah. We have plenty of comments. As Council Member Quagliani pointed out, the language here is a far cry from the existing charter, which really doesn't say much of anything that has any effect. The conversations with counsel for the VIA began when we first reached out to get more information. And so I want to say throughout this process, the city now has a lot more information around how the VIA uses their money to operate the library than we ever did before. So even if we got nothing else done, which doesn't seem will be the case, but even so, we're in a much better position now, and the city council will have access to lots more information. Most of what you see here was negotiated back and forth in a way that was really redlining contracts. So the last time we all met when we were downstairs, we had just been given very substantive changes, and we pushed back on almost all of those. But the crux of what you see here, I think, better outlines the existing relationship, and it puts the power to figure out the granularity, the details of how the two bodies will operate, the VIA and the city, into what could be a longer negotiation in an MOU. Obviously, tonight is our last night. We'll leave here tonight having finished our work. We can't leave until we do complete it. But it's probably best left up to further iterations of the VIA, the city council, whomever the executive may be, to figure out that the MOU itself best reflects how those two bodies want to work together with operation of this library, should they open up other libraries, whatever it may be. Libraries themselves in the state and region are expanding beyond the traditional sense of, periodicals and research and children's wings and things like that. It routinely becomes a place now of information. It's a cooling center. It's a warming center. Sometimes it's just a place of refuge out of weather, out of other things. More and more libraries are getting into renting out electronic equipment, giving tutorials and opening up classes, renting out musical instruments, renting out tools and things like that. And if this library gets into that further, then I think that's something everybody wants to support. But we don't have to get that specific in the charter itself. This process doesn't come along very often, and it's taken us this long to get to where we are. So the idea really was to outline what the city needs, not from the VIA at large, because they have their own money, they can do what they see fit with that, but what we need to be able to be comfortable to continue to give them the same level of funding that they've been asking for to operate the library, which we recognize is a massive public service, which we know we want to continue and grow, but maybe with better insight and better partnership between the VIA and the library, they can make better use of those funds that we're giving them. They can get more bang for the buck. And so what this does is set up the framework to have that conversation and really get into those negotiations. It had been posited before at public hearing by the gentleman who's now president of the VIA that the city council is unable to condition the annual, it's really treated like a grant, but disbursement of funds. That's simply not true. And so instead of condition it all in the charter, we set up the framework with the bedrock that we know we need, which they have accepted. And then going forward, we allow those bodies to negotiate those different points so that each year, if they need to, it can be adaptive to reflect the money that is being paid and the services that are being provided.
Question on the liability end. So any agreement you come up with them, they'll be required. Will they actually name the city as additional insured?
Yes.
Okay. So that would have to be in the agreement that's submitted.
Yes.
Certificate is submitted every year to the city. To prove
yes,
that.
and they will likely have to re-up their insurance each year. And so each year they'll have a deck page and they'll have riders as necessary. And so on each of those new insurance deck pages and riders, we will make sure that the city is part and parcel to whatever coverage they have. I know Attorney Mendick has more to say on that as well.
We had put in more language relating to indemnification, defense, and the like, and they were balking and they were proposing more massive language about other things, and that's why we ended up with simply accepting the fact that they're going to provide insurance in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the written agreement between the city and the association. All those issues will be addressed there, although we do later in the section do talk about that they need to provide evidence of insurance and indemnification. So there's an assumption that there will be some form of indemnification. They're going to want to have limitations for any acts that we take. And when we negotiate, we'll have to be conscious of what it is we're doing or not doing with regard to their property. Because keep in mind, there's another section. I was about to talk to the Corp Counsel about this in Section 6 of the the article, chapter that deals with departments. The Department of Public Works has supervision and control of the maintenance of city-owned structures, except such structures are under the control of the Board of Ed. Under the control of the Board of Ed, we own those, but if they're under control, they are responsible by statute to maintain them, or ownership of the Village Improvement Association. So we're not primarily responsible for their properties. We may enter into an agreement to work on their properties and provide plowing services or other services, but those will be separate agreements, and we will then negotiate what the insurance will look like in that regard.
Yeah, we all know this, but I'll say it if somebody's watching this YouTube for the first time. There does exist right now an agreement to that effect. The city, in exchange for not just handing over a larger bulk of money, has undertaken by agreement to deal with snow and ice removal, garbage removal. So that now is part of the route, even though it's not a building that's owned by the city and it's not under the control. That's already an agreement that we have for services. So the agreement or the MOU can start with that and simply expand on that. But your proposed language here in Chapter 7, Section 11, now provides more of a spine to that and a larger framework to lead those discussions.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Yes, Member Hosky.
I'm just curious. Is it the last line of number 1 budget submission where it says, at all times the private endowed funds, blah, 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 but the last part says, likewise, the city council should have sole discretion for the appropriation of city funds to the association? Is it written like that because the city council votes and decides what the mayor's on the mayor's budget because they had the final say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so those capital C, city, capital F funds are the budget. And ultimately, the city council approves or disapproves the budget.
And the amounts.
In the amounts, yes.
Any other questions, the attorneys? Comments on this? Not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
A motion.
Motion by Member Hosky, second by Member Gilbert. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. On to the last issue, the 4-year term for the council. Any comments that the attorneys want to make at this point?
I don't have anything more to say. I think everybody has thought about it and spoken about it a number of times, so I've got nothing more to say on that.
Okay.
I think we laid out what the elections would look like if certain positions and offices changed from 2 to 4, so we know what that will have to be. I think that's the bulk of what I would have said anyway.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before I entertain motions? Hearing none, I'm willing to entertain motions on whether the council, we recommend a 4-year term or keep it a 2-year term.
I can make a motion to stay with the 2-year term this time.
Second.
Member Gilbert made a motion to keep 2-year term, seconded by Member Hosky. Discussion?
Can I just say, effectively, you're rejecting the recommendation of the council to consider the 4-year term by.
Yeah, the tiny point of order would be essentially do nothing. If you follow Commissioner Gilbert, the motion would be not to put anything forward to the council for approval.
Not to approve the council recommendation of 4 years.
Yeah, so that stays at status quo.
So should we revise? Should we reword the motion?
No, I think your motion is worded fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood without the Roberts Rules language, what exactly it was that was being proposed.
Okay. All right. Yes, we're going to need a roll call before we do that. Any discussion or comments before we vote? Yes, Tony.
My only issue with going to a 4-year right now, I would love to leave it up to the voters, but without a commitment from the city council that it's going to be a separate question on the ballot, if the voters don't want that, then that could sink the rest of our recommendations and the revision. So that's where I stand on that.
Okay. I said it before and I'll say it again. I don't believe the council would go back on their word that majority of them would support putting it on the ballot. But your comments are noted.
And if I may,
Yes.
so do we know whether or not it could be two separate questions if we were to?
It can be.
It can be.
Yes.
Okay. And is there any confidence that we could have that the council would allow that, would say we want to separate it?
So I'll just restate the record from the previous meetings. It's non-binding, of course, but the question was posed, and the last time the council met in a conferral meeting, there was I don't remember what the numbers were, but there was an informal straw poll taken in it. At that point, the majority voted that they would allow or recommend that the questions on referendum be separated.
I'll let Chairman Vargo speak to that.
I think so. Oops.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I did not have an opportunity to have a formal vote of the City Council, I can tell you that my discussions with them, the vast majority of them do support two questions for the same reason that you all are struggling with this. We want to make sure that if the voters are not inclined to have 4 years on City Council, but yes to the mayor or vice versa, or whatever the case might be, we want them to have that decision. So to put in their hands, I can say with 99% certainty that it will be separated votes.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion?
Well, I just wanted to, I guess, bring forth the information that I shared with the rest of the commission as it relates to the pros and cons, and only because, and this is not to try to sway anybody any particular way, because quite frankly, it was pretty illuminating for me to think about both of the reasons, right? The reason that, and I love the fact that in that information, it asked a few questions for us to contemplate in terms of what direction to go in. And, one of the questions I have, I was just hoping that maybe we could go through those questions and ask those questions, but then also to appeal and ask the question, who are we, the group of us, to make the decision for the people of West Haven? So what is the harm in putting it out there as a question for, beyond this body, for people to make that decision? 'Cause I think it's almost like we're cutting off the conversation before we're even having the conversation, or allowing others to have the conversation and make a decision.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying and appreciate it. Appreciate all the information you've submitted to everyone to think about this. I think we made our decision when we did our final draft to the council as to what our decision was regarding the council term, that it wasn't going to change. We as a commission made that decision because that's what we recommended, or we did not recommend a 4-year term.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm happy to have discussion.
Well, what I thought was interesting was, asking ourselves the question in terms of, my concern is that how much can you get done in a 2-year term, right? And a year of that term is then campaigning. How, what is the voter turnout here, right? So we're asking the community to come out every 2 years and make decisions. We're asking the council to put their heart into their job, but at the same time, you also have to campaign to try to keep that, right? And so I just feel like, what are we trying to gain? Are we trying to gain progress, or do we want people to jump through hoops every other year, essentially, to prove that they are worthy to do this job?
Any other comments? Steve?
I agree with Leilani for sure.
I think, how many questions are going to be on the ballot now? Does anybody know?
Nobody knows. They have to decide. City council has to decide how many and how they structure them.
Yeah, just for order again, tonight's the final meeting of the CRC. Thank you all for your work, by the way. It will go back to council, and they will meet amongst themselves. They'll decide yay or nay. They accept the report in part or in whole, but more specifically and maybe more impactfully, they'll decide how to craft the questions. So that's how many there are, but also what is the wording of those questions. For lots of reasons you can imagine, you don't want to have 40 different referendum questions, but you also don't want to have one binary question, you do or don't, right? I think that's why things, at least in part, why things went bad the last time, and that is at least in part some of the discussion that you're having here. So that will have to be very carefully done, but that's for the next body to have to deal with.
It's not an easy job for them, for sure.
So are we able to decide tonight if we could have it as a question on the ballot?
No, that's not for you to decide. That is
We
for
can't
city
decide.
council to decide.
Yeah. We can only recommend.
We can either keep it status quo or say, we want to recommend that.
Well, I understand it wouldn't go through. We're recommending something, but how does everybody feel about that?
I'm just concerned. I think that we should try and see, excuse me, how the 4-year term works at this point. And I think some of the reasons we discussed that we can't control who's going to represent the city on the city council. That happens every 2 years in an election. And I just think that we're writing too much into it or talking too much into it to come to a conclusion that, we should go for a 4-year term and alternating and all that. But I just like to see how the 4-year term goes. That's my basic opinion. And if that works, fine. And the next people that want to do this charter commission, there's a lot less work to do now because we did a lot of work and got a lot of stuff cleaned up. So it'll be a lot quicker and faster. Thank you.
And Art, if I may, when you say how the 4-year term goes, are you referring to the 4-year term for the mayor?
Yes.
Just returning, yeah, before you see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And so I'm just
Sorry to
curious,
answer for him, but
how does that differ in terms of rationale for the council?
I just think it's a new venue that we're going into, and I don't know how the city's going to react. And they're pretty much, it's hard to describe how it's going to react. I don't know, but I think we should feel it out with the 4-year term and see how that goes. And if somebody else would like to do that, that's fine.
well, just a couple of things that I've had to think about, and this has been a learning experience, certainly. The mayor is involved in the day-to-day operations of the city where the city council isn't. The city council is the funding majority of its responsibilities is funding the budget. They're not involved in the day-to-day operations, so I would think the mayor's position, again, as discussed before, with the hiring of people with long-term strategy, which I have always had an issue with the city that, anytime something good was done by one mayor, the next mayor wouldn't continue it because they didn't want to make the other mayor look good. Things like that. So that's been a major issue of mine over the years, that there's been no consistency or coordination for good policies that the city should adopt. So those were a couple of reasons, that, again, the city council is more or less voluntary, even though they do get a small stipend. And even though they have to meet a lot of hours over the year, they are a part-time body.
Art,
Yes.
I had a question for Attorney Mendick. In your experience with the other cities you've worked on with the 4-year term, what have they done with their city council? Just out of curiosity.
It's a mixed bag. New Haven went 4 years simultaneously. Hamden went 4 years for mayor, retained the 2-year term for the council. Waterbury's gone 4 years and 2 years. When they went to a district system on the Board of Aldermen, they kept it at a 2-year cycle. They have a mini at-large system. So every system's a little different. Norwalk has a 4-year, I believe. They came very close to doing alternate cycles, but they didn't. So it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
Thank you.
Comments, discussion? Anyone else? All right, Stacy, can we have a roll call vote? So the motion is to not change our recommendation to the city council in regards to the council term. Retain the 2-year term.
Yes, that's the effectiveness of it. Commissioner Gilbert's motion was to reject the proposal that came from city council to adopt a 4-year term.
So a yes would mean support of his motion.
Yes is in support of his motion, and effectively means no, don't change the
Correct.
existing term.
Okay, just so everybody understands.
Yes is 2 years, no is 4 years. If that helps.
It's a simple way to put it, yeah.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Commissioner Garlock?
The microphone.
Yeah, we need microphones.
Yes?
Commissioner Gilbert?
Yes.
Commissioner Hosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Iderola?
No.
Commissioner Mancini?
No.
Commissioner Tagliatella?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
No.
And Chairman Kelly?
Yes.
And we have 5 yeses.
So the motion passes. Attorney Mendick?
One last issue, we had put, when we were in the council recommendation, they coupled the council 4-year term with a 4-year term for the Board of Assessment Appeals. Do you want to keep the Board of Assessment Appeals on a 4-year cycle or on the 2-year cycle? That's the only thing that is remaining. If we take no action, we have to approve their action. We have to say we're either recommending what they're doing or not. So all the offices are going to be 4-year terms. You're going to have mayor, city clerk, council, and the Board of Assessment Appeals. We're going to be on a 4-year cycle, and so the question is, do you want them on a 4-year cycle or do you want them on a 2-year cycle, the Board of Assessment Appeals? And then I also assume, and I don't know, we should talk about this, whether we need to unravel this, because one of the things we were doing, we were going to have that alignment election for the Board of Ed if we went to the 4-year term for the council. So is the rejection of the Board of...
Seems that that's mooted.
Is that, in my
I
view,
believe so.
I would agree with you. I just want to make sure everybody understood that that will be mooted with this. The Board of Assessment Appeals is slightly different because they stand alone. So the question is whether you want to keep them on a 2-year cycle or a 4-year cycle. It's
Well, let's have some discussion on it. I'll ask the council liaison his opinion if he doesn't mind giving it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, quite honestly, if just off the top of my head, if the action is to keep the council at 2 years, and there will be Board of Ed candidates on the ballot as well for those 2 years, and there's no top of the ticket, I think the more folks you have on the ballot, the better chance you have of getting turnout in the election. So, I mean, I would think that maybe they stay at the 2-year cycle. That's just off the top of my head.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or discussion?
There had been some talk about if we don't do that, will there not be an election in November, or can we skip some elections? I think the way it falls, there always is an election of some kind. Whether that's just a few people running or everybody, there's always going to be an election of one manner or another.
Member Hosky?
So I want to make sure my recollection is true. So it will be 4 Board of Ed running with the city council or
Yes.
5, but each 2 years it'll be the other set of because I just want to confirm it'll change each time. So it'll go
Yes,
from
it would
5
be
to
like
4,
half and then half-ish and then half-ish. Yeah.
in the by-election, we'll always be running with the 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how many? And excuse me that I do not recall. The Board of Assessment Appeals is 3.
Yes.
Look, I had it too. Good job.
Okay, so we need a motion?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I
To-
make a motion to leave the Board of Assessment Appeals at 2 years.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Hosky and seconded by Member Mancini. Any discussion on it or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we're done. And I'd like to thank everybody. Yes, Mr. Chairman of the Council, Varga would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how many of you all are planning on coming to our fund meetings. We're going to be meeting on the 28th and then again on the 5th for the final votes and the questions. But in case I don't get to see you, any of you, since we have a full house, on behalf of the City Council, thank you so much for all of the hard work. It is clear how much time and attention has been put into this process. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You've performed about 18 months of work in just around 18 weeks. It's absolutely remarkable. If the City Council made no recommendations, I think that your original document was going to pass. I think it was so well written. It was very thoughtful. I'm thrilled with the VIA language. I had some concerns last meeting of the breadth of the language, and I made some comments to the attorneys. I think that this language is very smart. Just again, on behalf of the council, thank you all for all of your hard work. Councilman Clagliani, thank you for attending all these meetings on behalf of the council and being their sounding board and their guide. I appreciate it. Chairman, your leadership and getting this process through. Stacy, you know I love you. And council, thank you for guiding us, for guiding this body, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank the City Council for their interactions with us, joint meetings, their discussion, their input, and everything else. I think, when I've heard of other commissions over the years and some of the stuff they went through, we had a very good process with the City Council, and certainly because of our attorneys. So thank you to the attorneys, thank you to the City Council, thank you to everyone for your time and contributions, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Member Garlock, second by Tagliatella. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.